Hey everybody, Mike Shope, Adam Krautwurst, the deep end. So we are heading into week 4, and we'll talk about a lot of different subjects tonight. Waivers, of course, some early trends, and also, the deep end is kind of new to me. And last night was my first real trauma of the year, Adam. I'll tell you all about it. Did you happen to watch Monday Night Football last night?
Sure. Yeah, I watched a little bit of Monday Night Football.
All right, I'll make this as quick as I can, but feel free to stop me whenever, because everybody's got their bad beat stories. I decided today, as I tweeted, this is about an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10, but I had numerous people, including my co-manager, tell me 10 is the only acceptable score for this. If you saw the game, you know what happened. With my partner, Mark, we took the lead with a Prescott-Lamb team by 0.1 on Prescott's second touchdown pass to Schultz.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's, I've got enough experience to know 0.1, get them off the field.
Right.
At that point. We'll take our chances with the stat corrections. So he does leave the game, and that's when we started to celebrate. Cooper Rush comes in. And, then we're just sort of reliving the game and enjoying it. Then wouldn't you know it, Prescott comes back in for 2 -1 yard kneel downs, exactly the amount to flip the score. Even if it's 1, we're tied.
Yes.
But no, it's 46 seconds. So immediately I realized there have to be 2 of these. I'm staring at the TV to see, is it possible he'll get a 0 on one of these? Nope. -1. So I don't think, Adam, I ever really knew about a quarterback going back into the game for kneel downs after having been pulled already.
Yeah.
But that cost us 1 in the main event last night.
I think I knew. I think I just figured that they do that because they want to get out there with their guys. I mean, they even put Zeke back out there, in the victory formation.
Right.
And when you sent me the text, like, who do I thank for taking him out of the game? I've been, and I feel like you're so much wiser than I am. You have a couple of years on me, but I feel like in the high stakes space, I feel like the it's all flipped. And I was sitting there going, oh man, I hope he's not assuming they're not going to put him back in for some sort of kneel down. And so but I kept to myself because I'm like, I want you to win so badly. And then he goes in and I'm like, oh no.
Well, he put himself back in.
Oh, did he?
Just like those other, like Elliott, like it was his first home game and a rival on Monday night, and like they just took the field.
Yeah.
So we needed somebody to take the shell off, the shoulder pads and the jersey off before that wasn't going to be possible. But I didn't really think to root for the Eagles on their last possession. I thought I was okay.
And then you said you were numb, and I'm like, man, I've so been there. Like, people don't understand who don't play high stakes and who don't play DFS. It's the same type of, like, DFS is like one for football, right? It's like basically one day, and like a lot of guys have their whole bankroll riding on these games. And high stakes is, it's a long season. It's 17 games, whatever, but it's so quick and it's kind of short. A loss can mean a lot, and just that feeling of, after it stays with you for like a day or two or whatever. And like, I've totally experienced it. I will experience it this year. I promise you. But on the flip side, that high of having the win, under that circumstance is pretty freaking sweet too. So, the sick part is that guy freaking started Dalvin Cook, which is just
yes,
just gross.
That's true. But I'd like to speak on that. Like, so I am older than you. If I don't know about the first part of that. And one thing that's really changed in me over the years is whether this is like a fantasy team or a team I root for or whatever, as soon as they lose, I'm like, okay, well, good for the other guy. I just have this
time.
This sort of, this kind of overall, no, actually not really. This kind of overall kind of Zen attitude about it. I'm not playing with money that's life or death. And so, okay, And then immediately my mind goes to, well, I only scored 123 points.
Right.
Well, we made this bad decision. I mean, things that aren't necessarily proper or healthy, even. They're just sort of where my mind goes because I want to feel good. Whatever it is, it's still fun. I want to feel good. So, and then on top of that is, I do this show with you, and I have a radio show in Buffalo for my full-time job, and it's actually true. Immediately, I thought content.
Yes, there you go.
This loss is content, and so
that's true.
Like I've got 25 years of that, and that's sort of an instinct. Your word, I have in those moments. So I don't get mad. I'll get mad for other reasons. Like I make a mistake. If I make a mistake with the lineup or something like that, like if I had left Dalvin Cook in the lineup, I will just totally destroy myself for that mistake. But losing like that, we were climbing uphill the whole night. And so getting that lead felt just like lucky. But it's a good story. It's not a great team.
And then, of course, Dak throws a touchdown to Zeke. He doesn't get in. He runs it in. He doesn't get in. Kind of. Of course he's in. Right. He fell forward. He's at the head line.
Of course he's in. They've got him staying in with the ball like this before the whistle. Then there's the end of the half. In the end, now you needed 2 yards.
Right.
You needed CD Lamb to have +1 rushing instead of -1 rushing. We had Lamb too. Yeah. But that's the good stuff, right? Like even losing, that team's probably not going to win $500,000. What really, and this is also, I'm not trying to give myself. I'm there with my friend, and I have brought him into this world somewhat like you've brought me into it. Like I'm sort of like, okay, let's do it. And I get my buddy into this main event, and he's texting me every day, and I don't want to lose for him because I think he's sort of looking to me to know what to do.
Yeah.
And when we lose, I feel like I've let him down.
I get
so
it.
That's how I felt last night a little bit. But we had a fun time watching, and who knows, maybe tomorrow they'll flip it.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe there'll be a stat correction. Yeah, exactly.
It should be noted, objectively, it should be noted that this team I'm talking about won the first week that way.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Because for some reason, there was a George Kittle fumble charge to him in Detroit in their opener. And so that's on Sunday afternoon. Stat corrections are Wednesday. I never even noticed that they had flipped that score. And then we went to set the lineups for week 2. My partner realized, why are we 1-0?
Right.
And so this team deserves no particular favors.
Well, listen, at least we got some good stuff going on, right?
A lot of it.
In the fantasy football world.
Well, the pros versus Joes. We had Darren Armani, Fantasy Mojo, with us last week. This is his tournament and the fine folks at FFPC. And even with Christian McCaffrey's injury in week 3, we have moved to the top of our division in the pros versus Joes. That looks pretty good. Your name should be on it with mine, if not instead of mine.
I kind of like that you're just the brains behind this operation. Mike Shope, the Deep End FF podcast. Okay,
Darren will fix that if we ask.
Brought to you by DraftSharks.com. We're 3rd overall in the event so far. Which is cool to see. It's early, but whatever. We're gonna take our wins. And like I said, when you're playing high stakes, you're going to have weeks that really suck, and you're going to not want to do waivers, and you're going to not want to set lineups the next week because you're just so down. And you're going to have weeks that are really good. And it's like, let's enjoy the wins. Let's enjoy the fun of it. Right. So here we're sitting up 3rd here. I don't know. It's Dodds is up there, obviously. Silva. And I think did you have him on your radio show the day of his pros versus Joes?
I think last year I did. I talked to him on WGR maybe 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So not long, but not about this. Yeah. He's one of my favorites. Those guys are great.
Yeah. And then way down here at 15, Brian Drake leads his division for Fighting Chance Fantasy, and over there on obviously does that great podcast with Dwayne McFarland, the FF Hustle. I always listen to them, so it's cool to see him there. But yeah, I wanted to go over our team real quick, just a reminder. We always talk about it, but Yeah, that's without Christian McCaffrey for half a game and maybe this week. I don't think it's that bad. The injury, I mean, they're not putting him on the IR, and he didn't look in like an agony after he did it. So hopefully he'll miss, a week and be back, maybe two, but no Judy.
Right.
But yeah, we had some nice picks here. But I wanted to talk about, we kind of got bashed a little bit for going 2 running backs early and then not taking any running backs to around 11 and 12 and taking the type of running backs that we took. We took Pollard, who's a handcuff type running back. He's not our handcuff, but he's a handcuff type running back. Seen as a back that doesn't have any standalone value. And the same thing with Madison, back to back. Another running back that doesn't have much standalone value, or people didn't think had standalone value. And I just thought that it would be a good time to bring up. We talked in the offseason about not handcuffing backs. Do you handcuff them? Do you not handcuff them? Do you take other players' backs? Now in this case, we took Pollard, we took Madison. We don't have Cook or Zeke, but I always think it's silly when people tell you, oh, you shouldn't handcuff or you should handcuff. Well, what was the argument against handcuffing? The argument against handcuffing is, well, if Dalvin Cook goes down, especially in these big tournaments, right, there are other teams that are going to have Alexander Madison and they don't have Dalvin Cook, and they're going to be a leg up on you. But that's, to me, and this was always my argument, to me, that's if Dalvin Cook goes down for like 10 weeks or like the rest of the year, right? But if you're in the main event, or you're in the football guys, and you have Dalvin Cook and you took Madison, are you behind the 8 ball right now because Cook missed 1 week and you had Madison put up 23 points? Like I feel like there's a case to be made for both, but to say that handcuffing your back is negative EV, I think that's just straight wrong. And all the people out there who took Madison and had Cook are probably breathing a sigh of relief that they were able to do that.
Well, very different managed league versus best ball. The argument, I think, is more not like who has Madison, but it's like the Alvin Kamara owner. When you have Cook and then you have Madison behind him, the Cook gets hurt, but Kamara doesn't. So there's the principle here where you have to, in a tournament like this or a league like this, have to assume success from your top players. Yeah. And instead of Alexander Madison, who was only relevant in week 4, maybe you could have had, one of these other Damian Harris, who was in a best ball useful in week 1, or some of the Pollard, even some of the other running backs who went in that range. I don't know. I know the math is out there, and I think it tends to frown on the strategy, but there's no one way to win. I think Pollard is interesting in how he, like, immediately week 1, Adam sort of announced himself as more than a handcuff. Like, Pollard and Madison are different. Madison is if Cook gets hurt. Pollard is more like Kareem Hunt, or what we might have thought A.J. Dillon would be, where you're getting value. You're getting a lot of plays out of him, a lot of touches. You're getting value out of him either way. And, there really aren't too many setups like that. I mean, New Orleans took a long time to figure out. Tennessee, there's nobody, really, that's clear. Derrick Henry seems to be immune to it anyway. And I don't know, yeah. Dillon hasn't worked out. Every situation's a little bit different. This happens. Any winning team, you look it up. We learned this. Well, you've probably known it for years, but I feel like I learned this last year talking to the people in the Draft Sharks Invitational, where it has to time right. And McCaffrey's injury for us timed with Madison's game. So I feel like maybe that's the thing that the winners will have in the end against such good competition. And I don't know exactly how you control that.
Yeah, you're right. It has to time right. Dalvin Cook got hurt at the end of a game where he already put up a bunch of fantasy points, and then you were able to put in Madison for a full week. You were able to look into that. But yeah, what I'm just saying, if Cook doesn't miss an extended period of time, Madison scored. You say Kamara. If you have Kamara and Madison, it's better than having Cook and Madison. I get it, but Madison scored more points than Kamara did.
Yeah.
So if the guy who had Cook and Madison, I just think if a guy gets hurt for 1 week or 2 weeks, that's not going to decide whether whether he's going to be behind the 8 ball or it's negative EV. Obviously, if it's a long-term injury, if it's 10 weeks, sure, the guy with Kamara and Madison is going to be ahead of the game. But I just think that having guys like Madison to handcuff guys like Cook and stuff like that, I think is a good idea. As long as your stud running back obviously doesn't miss 10 weeks. And then at that point, you're probably screwed anyways.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, the difference between a short-term and a long-term injury. And right now, I don't think I'll be doing more of it next year than this year. But
yeah,
let's see what happens this year. I mean, if this team wins, then maybe – I don't know. Like we don't have Chuba Hubbard on this roster. We have Ramondre Stevenson who can't get in the lineup. And, hopefully McCaffrey isn't out long and Jones has a great year as he has to start.
Sure.
Well, some of these guys, like Hubbard, I guess, in some leagues will be targets on waivers tonight, tomorrow night.
Yep.
In FFPC, I have one league that Hubbard is available in, not because he wasn't drafted, because he was cut already. And that's really interesting. That's really interesting so far. It is, but like you're the one to talk on this. Like some of those situations are really hard to avoid. And I think some of these teams that have cut guys like him or Gallup, I picked up Gallup in week 2 or 3 on waivers in one. I think maybe they have an argument for doing it. I don't think it's always just absent-mindedness or whatever. I think sometimes you can really get jammed because of all the injuries. If you have backup quarterbacks, say you went and added Trey Lance or Justin Fields or even like a Mac Jones in the later rounds to your team. Not so much Jones, but Fields and Lance were drafted everywhere as potential breakout mid to late season options. And that's taken up a roster spot. We're into week 4. Fields didn't help you last week, of course. Anyway, like that's one roster spot. And then you have maybe a backup tight end in case of an injury. And then you have Jerry Jeudy or I don't know, like you can get jammed. Not all those teams that have made these sort of famous cuts might have done that optimally, but some maybe they just had to. Would you say that?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I just I'm pretty sure I looked at this earlier, but I just again you made me kind of go back and do it just to double check. But I searched for Chuba Hubbard on all my leagues, and all my FFPC leagues, and he's not available in any of them. But yeah, it's interesting stuff like that, and how that can turn the tide of an entire team for an entire season. Yeah, you'll find these random players that are 98% owned in the tournament that you'll find on your waivers. I'm trying to think of there was somebody in one of my leagues last week that was Elijah Moore was dropped. And this was going into last week's, and I was able to put a claim in on him. Didn't get him, but which is probably
now he's hurt.
Yeah, he's hurt now. And that whole offense is a disaster. But yeah, you'll find, like you said, the Jerry Jeudy where they got you've got a ton of injuries, and now we got bye weeks coming up. I think week 5. I think they start. So you'll have the injuries, you'll have the bye weeks, and you'll really start to see guys get caught because they just can't hold on to these handcuffs. I mean, I'm facing situations like that with like Salvin Ahmed. Like I've got him everywhere. There's no way Myles Gaskin plays the entire season. He's too small. And so like I'm just waiting for that week that I can pop Ahmed in for a flex spot. But how long can I hold on to him? A 0 in my lineup, because I'm never going to play him with standalone value, and it's guys like that, like you said, Chuba Hubbard, stuff like that. So if Chuba Hubbard's available, definitely go out and put in a claim for him. I don't think. I mean, what have you heard, Mike? I don't think he's going to be. I mean, he's not on the IR as far as Christian McCaffrey, so he's not going to miss probably more than 3 weeks, or he's not going to miss 3 weeks. I'm thinking maybe he misses 1 to 2 weeks max.
Well, I mean, far be it for me to want to believe coaches, but like their actions tell you that he could be back after a game or two. I thought it was that's weird put against that they ruled him out so fast when he was hurt. But who knows, right? Like what happened with Joe Mixon last year? They dragged it. They didn't put him on IR. They just dragged it on all season, and then they shut him down. Like they don't. You can't even know even itself how the injury will heal. You're just sort of making a bet
on
it. So Hubbard is different than other guys like last year, maybe it was Gallman,
Yeah,
where out for the year, torn ACL, out for the year, and then you're bidding on what you think is maybe going to be a full-time running
sure.
back. Hubbard is probably not that, but at the same time, you could be desperate, and it's week 4, you get 12 weeks. So
Right.
if you're 3 weeks in, you're 1-2 or 0-3, and you sort of do the math and feel like you might get 3 useful weeks out of Hubbard, even if it's 2, that's still meaningful.
Yeah. Yeah. And a guy, even, a guy who's way available in these leagues is Peyton Barber. He's a guy that, has had a great week. They pounded the rock with him, and maybe they keep Jacobs out a little bit longer because of how good Barber looked. You know what I mean? So he's available in a lot of my leagues. I just checked, which was interesting because he was available last week, and like most people, like me, just didn't believe, like, the Raiders, they're not that good. They're 3-0. And it's Peyton Barber, but you gotta remember it's John Gruden, and it's like he loves what he loves these guys. You can just pound in the line of scrimmage. And so Peyton Barber would be a guy that I would be looking to pick up probably over Chuba Hubbard, because I think Peyton Barber might get, toe injuries for the running backs that could linger. Jacobs could come back and go back out again. And so I think Peyton Barber's the guy to target, and he's available in more leagues, way more leagues than Chuba Hubbard is available in.
Yes, that Gruden is different than some of these other coaches who just lie to you. Gruden maybe won't as often lie to you, but you still just don't like what he's saying. Like Peyton Barber, he talked about how he had him before and knew the player well, and he sort of condescended to Drake when he talked about Barber, but then he backed it up. Like in the game against Miami, he sort of he acted like, and we talked on this show and heard a lot about this, the implied point total on the Bengals. Like, oh well, all this, these fancy early wide receiver picks, okay, but why does Vegas think they'll be one of the league's lowest scoring teams? And here we are. They are that. They're also winning a little bit. And Chase, and to a lesser extent, Boyd and Higgins missed a game, are still producing, but it's really touchdowns. Chase has 4 touchdowns. The volume is not there. So I think in a particular format, in redraft, if anybody watching is more in tune with that, I think he might be a good trade idea. Because the volume is not there with Cincinnati, especially when you have a franchise that's never good, that is having success. They won at Pittsburgh. They want to keep rolling. It sets up very well for Mixon. If he gets hurt, then you're to the next guy, and that guy is Evans. So probably, an afterthought in a lot of places, but we're trying to find that perfect player, like in case of an emergency, and he's an option.
Well, there's always an emergency. That's what I was just about to say. Like it's this whole, like you had mentioned. Oh, if you're still playing the emergency running back game or the backup handcuff, like we should always be playing that game, because I'm at the point this year where I just feel like, and I may have texted you or somebody else, like every running back's going to miss 4 weeks this year. Like all of them. It doesn't matter who it is. It might not be 4 straight weeks. It might not be, like, they're just all going to go down except for Derrick Henry. Like he's a guy that just he's never going to get hurt. And it's just, it's wild. It's week 3 and it's already chaos with running back. I mean, McCaffrey, Cook, there's your top 2 picks. Bang, bang, are already hurt. It's that was one of the big arguments for taking Kelsey in the top 3 or 4, because tight ends don't get hurt as much. He never gets hurt. So it's just always, my recommendation would always be playing that running back emergency game. Always be looking to find them, even if you don't need, like I got a lot of teams with Zeke and Saquon on it. Like I'm feeling good about myself now, right? Zeke is looking good. Saquon's back and looking good. Like, oh, I've got 2 good running backs now. I'm still looking to add more running backs to that stable because they're going to get hurt. My backups are going to get hurt. So yeah, always be looking to do that. One of the receivers that I wanted to talk about that I think that is available too, in a lot of places, that I think is a nice, he might not start for you today, but when bye weeks and injuries again start to fill in, Hunter Renfrow for the Raiders. I love him. He's, I obviously have a soft spot for a guy like Cole Beasley, and he's got that same little feel to his game. I think Hunter Renfrow, not that this might be saying a lot, I think Hunter Renfrow is better than Cole Beasley. He's obviously much younger. He's always played with a chip on his shoulder, went to Clemson, which is crazy.
Caught
Yeah,
the big touchdown pass from Watson in the championship game, right?
What do they call him? Third? What were they saying? They call him third in Renfrow or second in Renfrow or whatever, because he's always open on the down that you need him to be open on. And I think he played did the Raiders play the Bills last year?
Yeah.
And he mossed one of our corners on the sidelines. Like, he's a baller. And I just never thought he fit into Gruden's system. And now I think Gruden's kind of coming around to him. And I really like him as a he posted a 5 for 77 in one line on Sunday. I think that's him. That's his game. And it might not sound sexy, but when there's bye weeks and injuries, man, you can throw a guy that can get you 13 locked in points. I think that's valuable. And man, if Carr keeps throwing for 300 yards a game, he's gonna keep doing that.
Which he only ever does.
That's right. 6 or 7 straight games. Is that what it is?
9, I think. Maybe.
9. That's wild.
You might be right. Well, Ruggs, Edwards, you say sexy, like those are the sexier names. But Renfro's pretty solid, and they're all tough to start. I mean, you're talking about like as a backup plan, and I think I might agree that Renfro could be the one of the 3 that's sort of the safest. And you want to get to that point where you just, like you said it very well, 12, 13 points, put it in the bank, like the way Jarvis Landry does.
Yes.
There's another one, Michael Thomas. Adam, like that point, you drafted Michael Thomas, Bateman, you lose Judy. I have a couple of these teams. It exactly happened to me. You can get to a point where you're cutting somebody that you hate to cut as early as week 1, but
I know.
Make it work.
That's
all right. So you mentioned Derrick Henry. He's on my mind for where we were wrong.
Yeah.
But all right, let's give the bad news first.
Yep.
I know I had a lot of company just always fading Derrick Henry. And I'm going to bring up Tom Brady here, who I think is quarterback 1 so far.
God, is he? I'm gonna look that up right now. I should probably know that.
And one RT ranking I have, he's quarterback 1.
You're probably right.
Depends on the format, I guess, somewhat. But Brady 1, Murray 2, Mahomes 3.
He is. Wow.
And a lot of support for him in the offseason, a lot of always for Derrick Henry, mid-first round. But I can't divorce myself from the age, the fade, older guys. One of these years, it's a joke now, like with Brady 10, 12 years ago. He's going to be in decline, and one of these years I'll be right. But I'll struggle along the way. You can always draft someone else. It was so much easier for me to draft Jonathan Taylor than Henry. But not only are you getting Henry's volume again so far this year, but they're throwing the ball to him a little bit. And it already feels 3 weeks in like I'm going to succumb again to the Derrick Henry teams.
Yeah, you totally stole the guy, Derrick Henry. I faded him everywhere for a couple of reasons. One, I just can't believe he's going to go another year without getting hurt, beating the style of his game. And 2, it was always, he had such a low floor. And I think even the first game, I think he had like 7 points or something, 10 fantasy points is for first game, but you're like you said, it's the catches, 4 targets, 6 targets, 3 targets. He's catching them all. He's had 3 for 4, 6 for 6, 3 for 3. So he's only missed 1 ball. That's where I missed. And I think to me, it's not even the pass catching that bothers me. It's the fact that like I said, I think every running back is going to miss like 4 weeks at least. And he just isn't. So the fact that you can have a guy you can plug in there, even if he has a super low floor because of the pass catching, which is now not that low. I think that it's such a valuable piece. I mean, every week it's like running backs are going down. Like every week there's like 2 running backs. What do we have? James White this week, and who else? I think
McCaffrey.
McCaffrey. That was Thursday. Yeah, exactly. It's like every week there's 2 running backs that go down, and Derrick Henry just never goes down. So I think that I whiffed there in a sense. Now again, there's 14 weeks for him to get hurt, but he's transcendent talent when it comes to not getting hurt, and I think that I didn't really factor that in. Plus, everywhere I drafted in the back quarter of the draft, and I never really had a shot at him. Not that I was targeting him. And when I was in the middle, I was taking Tyreek Hill and stuff like that. But
Waller.
But right. Which those picks are fine. But if I was going to take a running back in the middle, Derrick Henry should have been the guy. And another guy that I might be wrong about, maybe we were wrong about, but probably more me, is Justin Fields. And it's not even a Justin Fields issue, I don't think. I think it's a Matt Nagy issue, and I'm sure you've seen all the videos going around where all the talking heads on the radio and on the not local radio, but like ESPN radio and TV shows are just bashing Matt Nagy. And I don't have statistics of how many times they move the pocket and all this other stuff. I just know that they did him a disservice. And Orlovsky said it best, Dan Orlovsky, either they're negligent there or they did it on purpose. And both of them are disgusting outlook for the rest of his fantasy season. So I'm nervous because I took him everywhere. Now I didn't take him as my QB1. So I'm okay there. I've got a lot of, Stafford, Brady, Hurts, those type teams with Fields, but Fields might be a guy that, and it's sick for me to say, he might be that guy that I might be cutting in 3 weeks because I need, I can't carry two quarterbacks and I need to get another guy on my roster. So that's what scares me.
I think that could happen soon. He is on that Pros versus Joes team of ours behind Stafford, and we'll need him for something in a best ball tournament such as that. Hang in there. It's still early. We're talking about what look like mistakes at this point. If Henry does get hurt, if Fields against a team like Detroit this week that isn't Cleveland, playing his second NFL game or his third NFL game starts to look, there's certainly potential for that to happen. Maybe it's even likely to happen. Yeah. So, I mean, I want to be optimistic about him too. And Lance, although Lance has not gotten in, and I guess you could say one fear about Lance and his usage was that San Francisco plays such an easy schedule. They won their first two games. The Packer game, which they would go on to lose, easily could have won it. But Sunday night was driving me nuts. Because Garoppolo, there's just nothing there. I mean, there's no mobility. There's no real accuracy. There's no just sort of edge in Garoppolo. So make the move. But, it could go the way it went for Chicago. Who knows? I'm getting antsy on that one, though, because, they play the kind of schedule where now it's Seattle. Maybe if they lose again, that could change. But people said it. You could see Garoppolo playing half the year. And, by the way, if it means anything, Adam, to San Francisco, no rookie quarterback is doing well.
Right. But I think a lot of that has to do with maybe not even necessarily the actual quarterback, but the supporting cast, the coaching staff, the situation. Like at least, and I know like Trey Lance was your Justin Fields to me, like that was your guy, but at least something to be excited about is like when he gets in there, they put him in the right situations, they use him correctly. Every time he's in there, he's successful. You had a great tweet during the Sunday night game, like Garoppolo, like what are we doing here? Like Garoppolo, and they lost, which is great. And if they go to Seattle and lose, it'll be even better, because now, okay, let's see. Because you can already see when he gets in there, Shanahan knows what to do with him. Man, did they jack up that Justin Fields situation. Zach Wilson might never recover from this season with the Jets, which would be fine by me. All the rookie quarterbacks, Jacksonville. I mean, Urban Meyer might not make it half the year. It's just, it's an absolute disaster. But I think once Trey Lance gets in there, I think he's just gonna take off.
I certainly still want to think that. I just don't know. Kyle Shanahan, it's always how great he is, and the success, in terms of play calling is hard to argue with. But man, there's just a lot of things like any other coach that seem just sort of confusing, and his record isn't that good. So, like that game, for instance, game management. I mean, all these teams could benefit probably from having somebody who's just explicitly in charge of that. San Francisco kind of blew the game by scoring too soon on the last possession with Sermon, giving Green Bay a chance. And he was talking about after the game, how they were aware of that, but they didn't do it. And, there's always coaching versus players, but players' actions are coaching too. So if you're experienced veteran quarterback, because that's his advantage, that experience, doesn't know to do that, what are you afraid of the rookie for? And why are you telling me after the game how aware you were of the clock? It's just, some of these guys, even a guy like that who gets so much credit, win some games.
Yeah, Dave G brings up here the whole Atlanta offense, the Ridley Pitts situation. Yeah, I'm not too surprised about Pitts struggling. I mean, he's probably not even struggling. He's getting the target shares, he's getting the route rates and all that stuff. He's a rookie tight end, and Ridley kind of surprised me more because we know Ridley's good and we know he's got the rapport with Matt Ryan and he's not a rookie. And Matt Ryan just had that. I think he fell off the cliff that we thought Brady was going to fall off.
Maybe,
2 years ago, So I think that might be the situation there. But yeah,
I don't know yet. I haven't seen them, but the numbers are great. I'm not worried about Pitts at all. Cordarrelle Patterson is fun and interesting for Atlanta. I even thought Hayden Hurst offered one of those dart throw tight end values because Pitts would be playing wide receiver so much, and he is. But Hurst, like nothing. There's a lot of guys. A lot of guys I wouldn't say that we're wrong. I mean, they're not all flag plants, but certainly a lot of disappointments. The rookie receivers. But, what makes it interesting is there always was the counter argument for everybody. And it's the overall success rate on a given roster. How many hits, how many misses that'll determine how you do.
Yeah.
Where we were right. Can we?
Yeah.
You're ready to do that. I want to pump you up here first.
Oh, boy.
The top 2 receivers in fantasy football are 2 Adam Krautwurst darlings. So hopefully you took his advice all summer. Cooper Kupp, Mike Williams. They're both on that Pros versus Joe's team. They could finish 1-2.
That would be insane. I mean, Cooper Kupp and Mike Williams are guys. I love the situations. Sometimes I do it all the time. Sometimes we make fantasy football so hard, right? Like we dive into the numbers and we just loot. There's probably a better saying for what I'm trying to say, but just the situation. We had Matt Stafford coming there. Stafford's so much better than Goff. It's not even close. And the word on the street was McVay was in love with Stafford the moment he got there, and it's just, if you believe McVay knows what he's doing on offense. Cooper Kupp was like the number one. I think he was the number one receiver like 2 or 3 years ago through like the first 7 weeks before he got hurt. So he's got skills. He's like 27, 28. I didn't expect him to be the number one receiver, but I just thought he was a great pick in the fourth round. Mike Williams was a guy, I was taking a ton of in these best balls. Again, a situation where we have a guy in a contract year. He's had 1,000 yards. He's had double-digit touchdowns. He hasn't done it this is the same year. He's often hurt, and I'm riding this Mike Williams wave because he's probably going to get hurt, for a couple games. But the cool thing is that he's running slants, and he looks really good doing it, and he's running the whole route tree, and they're using him. Herbert's a stud. I just thought the opportunity there would be great. Did I think he'd be the number 2 fantasy receiver? No. But I just, sometimes the opportunities meet the talent, and you just got to bet on it at ADP. And those were the 2 that I was going to bring up along with TJ Hawkinson so far. Let me see where he ranks. He did have a dud. So, the kind of the luster came off of that a little bit, but where's he ranked here? In FFPC score, is he 6th? I have him 4th. Yeah. Okay. So he's 4th in scoring. I have him as my number 3 tight end, behind Waller and Kelsey. Gronk's up there. Just who saw that coming? But my big thing was I had him ahead of Kittle, and I was, I have very little Kittle, and because I was not that I hated Kittle, but like why if I want a tight end early, I'm going to wait and I'm going to take Hawkinson in the 3rd, because I just didn't know Kittle's situation with the rookie quarterback and with everyone's pumping up Ayuk, so maybe he was going to take some of the targets, and they're a run heavy offense. So did I hate Kittle? No, but did I think he'd be the number 3? I didn't, and that's kind of how it's been playing out there. But Hawkinson is just, again, we don't need to make fantasy football that hard. He's the only receiver there. He was a top 5 tight end last year. He's the only decent receiver there, and they're always going to be losing. Now, granted, they almost beat Baltimore, which is probably why I only had 2 catches.
Yeah.
But if that's what it's going to be, if every time they're going to win, he's going to do poorly, I'm going to take that, So it took 2 Marquise Brown touchdown drops to keep them in that game. So, but yeah, so those are my 3 guys. Where were you right, Mike?
Baltimore has their season in terms of defending tight ends has started Waller, Kelsey, Hawkinson. Maybe by week 3, they knew what to do. Waller he was a target on every play in the opener, and then Kelsey broke one. Baltimore a little weak against the pass so far, but did not, manifest in terms of Hawkinson. I was going to talk about tight ends too. Mark Andrews is tight end 6, and Kittle is 9. Kittle is exactly what I think the consensus expected, which is he's too good a player, like complete a player, to be down the field all the time. They do have Ayuk and Samuel. They're a little bit different as an offense, and he's blocking a lot. You see screen passes, and he's often just like not in the route. But that's to be expected. He never scores. So eventually you'd like to think that will change. I have 2 main event teams with Kittle on it, and really they were about the builds. They were about, trying to be unique. A lot of people in this space are drafting multiple teams, and they want unique combinations. And Kelsey and Hawkinson worked out pretty easily. 1-3-3-3 or 1-4-3-4, that kind of a build. I don't have the stack data from Darren with me, but we had Louis Gott and I had a main event team the Friday night in Vegas where we went Kelsey, Mixon, Kittle, and then Mahomes. And that was cool because there just aren't going to be those opportunities very often to get Kelsey and Kittle in the third with the hero RB in between. That team's good. It's 0-3, but it's in the top 250 in points. Yeah. The points are there.
It's sick.
So we're excited about that one. I think the point, like where we were right or where I was right, I don't know. I'm almost always deferring and trying to come up with just that point, different combinations, not ever pretending to know a lot about how guys are going to do. There's always so much randomness in it. But that early tight end, that was a conclusion I got to, July, maybe earlier, that it just felt, every draft felt like when you looked at it, if you didn't have one of those 3 or 4 tight ends, you were maybe taking a big risk. All my teams that I liked had that. And so I don't think, I was trying to talk you into Kelsey at 101 in Pros versus Joes. Remember?
Yeah.
That I think was, and so far so good. If you did that, somebody did that. Andrews is fine. Andrews is 6, and it's starting to happen. It's just matchups and game script. And Kittle will be fine. You do have Gronk up there. Maybe that will work out all year. Maybe not. Waller. So far, that is really chalky tight end at the top. So to whatever it proves 3 weeks into a season, when we were right, when we were wrong, that sort of thing, that early tight end play has probably worked out for anybody who did it.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
The strategy is more the strategy than the player.
How spoiled have we been as a football fan base? Travis Kelce is on pace for they play an extra game, but he's averaging almost 100 yards receiving a game. Like it's absurd. This guy is he's so good as a tight end. Just being spoiled with him for all these years. Back when I started playing fantasy football back in the late 90s, it was like tight ends. No one's taking tight ends. There was one tight end, Tony Gonzalez or Antonio Gates that you took in the 3rd round, and that was it. But now it's like, man, Kelsey's just so good every single week. And in tight end premium, man, FFPC, you get the point and a half a catch. It's so good. But yeah, like you said, if you took a tight end early, you're not upset. Kittle's not going to kill you. Andrews is coming along. He finally had a nice game, and And like as long as they stay healthy, and tight ends tend to do that. That's the cool thing about tight ends is they don't really tend to get hurt as often as the receivers and the running backs do. So it's kind of cool to see like the builds around those guys because it's kind of safer too. And a guy that we didn't talk about for the waivers, now that I'm looking at it, the fifth tight end here in FFPC is Dalton Schultz. He might be a guy. He's available in 50. Well, he's owned in 54% of leagues. So, he's a guy that you're going to want to put some waiver bid bucks in for it, especially if you have like a Mike Gesicki or one of these kind of disappointing middle of the road tight ends there.
I think Knox is really interesting, actually, from Buffalo.
Yeah,
he is running routes. They are way ahead in games. They might have half their games left where they're a big favorite.
Yeah,
and that doesn't mean they're going to throw to the tight end necessarily, but it means they can do almost whatever they want in those games if they go to form. And so he's an athlete. He made a great touchdown catch on Sunday. He's somebody that Allen looks to. He's looked at his tight ends in the red zone in his career. It was Croft or Lee Smith in the past. Now it's just down to Knox and Tommy Sweeney.
yeah.
And so Knox is the starter. He's on the field. He's running routes. And he's tight end 7 on my list here, RT Sports, through the first 3 weeks. Like, come on.
Yeah. In tight end premium, I think he's tight end 9, 3, 6, not 10.
Still good.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. It's that's a great point. Like you said, they're going to be winning a lot of games by a lot. So what that allows them to do is that allows them to run more, put the tight end in more. Gabe Davis has been the odd man out. They put Dawson Knox in there so they can run and they can still pass. He had that beautiful, went up for it, caught it in the front corner of the end zone there. Actually, side note, I took Noah, my 10-year-old, to the game on Sunday. He had an absolute blast. We had seats kind of upper right in that corner where he caught that ball. And it was really cool right after the interception. So
nice.
He had a blast doing that. And but yeah, Knox, yeah, that's a good point because he's frustrating with the drops. He's owned in only 68% of leagues, but yeah, if they're going to keep scoring and they're going to keep running where he's in there, that's going to be good news for him.
Tyler Conklin also getting usage for Minnesota. He had a big week. Might have been tight end 1 this week.
Yeah, he's owned in 36% of leagues in the FFPC, and I think I am the 36%. I just kudos to Deo there and Abib on their podcast. He was talking about Conklin. I think we talked about it months ago. So I grabbed a little bit of him and then the injury to Irv Smith, I was allowed to get was able to get a little bit more of him. So
yes.
Hopefully he can be consistent where I can plug him in.
That was the key there. Conklin was probably tight end 1 before Schultz last night, who would have topped him with that game. All right. Well, good luck on the wires. And do you have any final thoughts here, Adam? I know you're not feeling that well either.
I know I'm kind of feeling a little bit under the weather. I did want to show one thing here because I know DraftSharks.com they kind of support the podcast here, and I did want to go on there because today they just announced that their strength of schedule is now, so they take a couple weeks, right, to get data to put in to make their strength of schedule. And if you go on the website, the strength of schedule here now, this is such an amazing tool to be able to look ahead and see what defenses do against those positions. You can go in here and look at quarterback strength of schedule, running back strength of schedule. It's highlighted easily in green, stuff like that. And, to kind of help you to project for, now a lot of the leagues that you and I play in, Mike, these high stakes leagues, they don't allow trading and stuff, but, to project for like picking up guys off the waivers, am I going to pick up a guy that's going to have a terrible schedule? He's not even going to be worth the fab bucks, right? But, you look here and even for starting lineups, even if I glance here, running back strength of schedule, Tampa Bay this week's got New England, and it's, they're plus 95% against the mean for running back points. So man, Fournette's a guy I'm going to probably plug into my lineup because they have, they're not, New England isn't very good against the run. So super useful tool. I know we talked about this tool a lot last year, especially when it came to guys like David Montgomery and guys like Jonathan Taylor, where they just exploded at the end of the year because of that sweet schedule. So this gives you a chance to kind of look ahead, see that. You can do it for receivers and tight ends, and definitely use it. It went live today after they plugged in all the data from the first 3 weeks, and I'm excited to dig into this. When I set my lineups, I will have this up when I'm doing my fab, I will have this up to kind of look ahead and try to plan for that type of stuff.
I love logos and charts, so that'll be perfect.
Right.
By the way, you said Tampa Bay plays New England this week. I had no idea.
Yeah, no idea. I had
happening?
no clue.
They've never played.
What does Tom Brady have to do this weekend to win the Brady versus Belichick argument? What does he got to do? 60, 70 points?
I mean, it's not over yet.
Thank you. That's the right answer. Thank you.
I mean, Belichick will be insufferable tomorrow. Media day tomorrow. He already has been when it comes to this subject.
Isn't it such a beautiful thing?
I don't blame him for not wanting to rehash the entire history or even the last year. But, of course, after that on to Cincinnati business, that one year, he wouldn't talk about the game they just played. Then yesterday, he only wanted to talk about the game they just played.
Right. That's right.
He makes the rules, I guess.
It's his world. We're all living in it.
Yeah. When he has a podcast about us, then we'll be even.
Woo! That sounds like fun.
I don't think that day's coming. But it would be on a yacht, and that's out there for us to shoot for, is to have a podcast on a yacht. I have that terrace view, but it's dark now.
Yeah.
By the time we go on.
If anyone's listening and they have a yacht and they would like Mike and I to come podcast, listen, I'll be on the next flight to wherever.
Rochester, Lenny.
Wherever yachts are parked.
Does Lenny know somebody? Maybe he seems like a guy who would know somebody at least.
We might be able to talk him into just renting one for a podcast.
Let's win a couple weeks of the bare knuckle, and then maybe we can pull that off.
That's right.
That team waited on quarterback. Darnold, Daniel Jones, Lawrence. Lawrence has been kind of a bust, but Darnold and Daniel Jones are a great late combo. And just again, sort of rehashing the first 3 weeks real quick. The teams where I went quarterback early, I don't know. Like Dak Prescott is really good, and he's the player we thought. But some of those teams are limited at the one other position, the running back or the wide receiver position, even with the stack. You might rather have even Bridgewater or Cousins, Carr. Those guys are a big part of the story so far this year. And Allen took a while. Murray's been great.
Yeah.
Some of those guys have been great too, but you get somebody like that in round 4 versus round 14, make a big difference.
Yeah. Kind of real quick, where we were right, where we were wrong. I was super right about Sam Darnold. I remember being on the Draft Structure Invitational podcast talking about how I love Sam Darnold. He has top 15 upside. And I was super wrong about Robbie Anderson. I have Robbie Anderson everywhere, and they're using him in a way that they didn't use him last year. He's not a part of the offense at all, and it sucks because I have a lot of him in the 7th round. But what are you going to do?
They will be different this week in some way. They're smart coaches. They don't have McCaffrey. Hubbard is not going to be McCaffrey, so that could be good. They've used the tight ends a little bit too. They traded Dan Arnold, right?
Yeah.
But it's Tremble who's been kind of relevant there, and Moore has been great.
Yes.
I think don't give up on Anderson, at least for this week. Dallas, I don't know. There's potential there, and they probably want to get him off. So
how good is Dig? How good? This is so off topic. How good is Dig, by the way?
Very good.
Dallas.
Yeah, very good.
He's sensational. 3 picks through 3 games. I mean, I never talk about corners either because I rarely watch them. But man, 3 games, he's a lockdown man. If they can get a lockdown corner, Dallas, I hate this.
They look good. Yeah,
they look really good. They look really good.
I got my Texas vibes here with the Baylor National Championship shirt.
Baylor tennis, I love it.
Baylor, NCAA tournament basketball. The men won the national championship. They're good at everything, so it's an easy mistake to make.
That's right. Chip and Joanna Gaines are from there. Come on.
And Carolyn McGrath. That's the name to know from,
of course,
Baylor sports lore. She'll love having her name associated with the word lore. And it is sort of an old-timey connotation. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Hope you enjoyed tonight's show. We'll be on with you again next week. Good luck in week 4.
See you guys.